Hello, my name is Joe Weinstein, and it is my privilege to be your service associate today. Our words of welcome as we proclaim worth are by Dan Lambert. You are welcome here no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what your background. You are welcome here to join us as we proclaim worth in our spiritual journeys. You are welcome to join us as we sing songs that uplift our very beings. You are welcome to join us in community as we learn, live, and love together. All are welcome as we worship that which gives each of us meaning and value. No matter what you call this building, this hour, or this gathering of people, we worship as one body, illuminated by the light of the chalice.
We'll now go to our Words for All Ages segment.
Today's story for all ages is a book called One by Catherine Otoshi. This is one of Alex's favorite books. All right. Blue was a quiet color. He enjoyed looking up at the sky, floating on the waves, and on days he felt daring, splashing in rain puddles. Every once in a while, he wished he could be more sunny like yellow, or bright like green, more regal like purple, or outgoing like orange. But overall, he liked being with blue, except when he was with red. Red was a hothead. He liked to pick on blue. Red's a great color, he'd say. Red is hot, blue is not. Then blue would feel bad about being blue. Sometimes yellow comforted blue. Blue's a very nice color, she'd say. But yellow never said that in front of red. She never said, stop picking on blue. Green, purple, and orange thought blue was nice too, but they never told red to stop either. Every time Red said something mean and no one spoke up, he got
bigger and bigger and bigger.
Soon, Red grew so big that everyone was afraid of him. No one dared stop him. Red picked on all the colors. Then everyone felt a little
Or a little green, little blue, no, purple, or a little orange, or a little yellow.
until one came. He had a different shape with bold strokes and square corners. He was funny. He made the colors laugh. Red saw this and got very hot. Stop laughing, he told yellow. Stop laughing, he told green. Stop laughing, he told purple and orange. And they did. Red rolled up to one. Stop laughing, he told him. But one stood up straight like an arrow and said,
No.
Red was mad, but one wouldn't budge, so Red rolled away.
You should see this one. This is funny.
One turned to the colors and said, if someone's mean and picks on me, I, for one, stand up and say, no. Then yellow felt brave and said, me too. Green agreed and said, me 3. And purple became 4 and orange became 5.
5. I'm 5.
Blue saw the colors change. He wanted to count. Red grew red hot. He felt left out. He grew hotter and hotter and hotter. Red raced over to Blue and said what he always did. Red is hot, Blue is not. But this time Blue stood up tall and became 6. Careful, buddy.
I'm almost going to 6.
Come back over here. Red can be really hot, he said, but Blue can be super cool. Red blew a fuse and tried to roll over Blue.
Well, Blue lifted him up and he was like throwing both, I think.
But everyone took a stand and said,
No!
Seeing them standing tall made Red feel very, very, very small. Then Red turned even redder and began rolling away. Blue called out, Can Red be hot and Blue be super cool? Red stopped in his tracks. Red can count 2, said one. Red rocked and rolled and turned into 7. Everyone they counts, they shouted. Red laughed and rolled in the fun.
1, 2, 3. Let me do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Then Red laughed and joined in the fun. Sometimes it just takes 1.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
The end.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the light of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the light of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Joe Weinstein will now offer some words of inspiration.
Our words of inspiration by Richard S. Gilbert is entitled, Life is Always Unfinished Business. In the midst of the whirling day, in the hectic rush to be doing, in the frantic pace of life, pause here for a moment. Catch your breath. Relax your body. Loosen your grip on life. Consider that our lives are always unfinished business. Imagine that the picture of our being is never complete. Allow your life to be a work in progress. Do not hurry to mold a masterpiece. Do not rush to finish the picture. Do not be impatient to complete the drawing. From beckoning birth to dawning death, we are in process. Do not let the incompleteness weigh on your spirit. Do not despair that imperfection marks our everyday. Do not fear that we are still in the making. Let us instead be grateful that the world is still to be created. Let us give thanks that we can be more than we are. Let us celebrate the power of the incomplete, for life is always unfinished business. May we take a moment of silence now before Bonnie plays Spirit of Life.
Spirit My special music is called I Would Be True. When Judy Lucarelli mentioned her topic about the moral dilemma of leaders, this is the first song that came into my mind. And I went online, and I'll be darned if I didn't see a Unitarian Universalist choir performing the song. I would be true, for there are those who trust me. I would be pure, for there are those who care. I would be strong, for there is much to suffer. I would be brave, for there is much to dare. I would be brave, for there is much to dare. I would be friend of all the foe and friendless. I would be giving and forget the gift. I would be humble, for I know my weakness. I would look up and laugh and love and lift. I would look up and laugh and love and lift. This time we're going to hear about our Give the Plate Sunday.
So Alex wanted to help me with a video. This month, the Give the Plate is going towards The Haven, the domestic violence agency that helps North Pinellas County. The Haven has been hit quite hard with COVID. Not as many not as many women and children have been able to be in the shelters. They're also losing quite a lot in donations. They will take anything that they possibly can, they help with relocation assistance. They give gas gift cards and grocery gift cards. They give toiletries, all sorts of other things for women and children who are both victims and survivors. So whatever you might be able to do to help out would be greatly appreciated. All of the money, everything that they give, goes directly to the women and the children who are in the shelter. So we appreciate any assistance.
If you would like to donate to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs, go to our website, uutarpon.org, and click on the donate button, or mail your checks to 57 Reed Street. The entire address is there on your screen. Judy Lucarelli will now give us our words for the day, our important message, the moral dilemma leaders face.
Welcome to another room in my house. The Inupiat grass sleeping mat behind me is from our years in Bethel, Alaska. Sometimes when we are experiencing terrible times, it helps to think about the terrible times in the past. We survived those, so surely we will get through this time. So today, I want to look back. These times we live in made me think about moral dilemmas and moral development. I had the opportunity at the end of my graduate coursework to participate in a moral education institute led by Lawrence Kohlberg. The true picture of the professorial genius, complete with wild hair and a long white beard. Kohlberg had developed the concept of moral development as the stages that we go through in sequence as we mature. The concept is similar to Piaget's stages of cognitive development, not surprising since Kohlberg was a student of Piaget's. Piaget's construct spanned from birth through teenage years. Individuals progress through the cognitive stages and absent some major physical trauma, do not regress to a lower stage. In contrast to Piaget's work, Kohlberg theorized that we move through the stages of moral development over the course of our whole lives. An emotional trauma can cause regression, but following this trauma, the progression picks up again. So first, what are the stages of moral development? Stage 1, moral decisions are embedded in emotions and perceptions about the world as it relates to me. This is the very youngest and least mature moral decision making. Stage 2 is concrete, focused on intentions, pre-logical. The individual cannot reconcile opposing views, so often reverses position. Stage 3, the individual can reconcile multiple points of view, but with strong opinions of right and wrong. Feelings of we-ness are embedded in interpersonal relations. Stage 4, the individual moves beyond self to a societal perspective, coping with conflict between peer groups, but limited by the concept of maintaining the rules. And stage 5, universal principles, relativism, the recognition that each individual has a right to personal perceptions, notions of tolerance. My mentor would say, reasonable people can disagree. An individual's development through these 5 stages is a gradual evolution from a focus on self to valuing others to the development of empathy. Addressing moral dilemmas advances us through the stages. This can be promoted through analyzing prepared dilemmas, which make it a useful teaching tool in schools and groups. The famous dilemma that Kohlberg used to develop his stages was the man who had to commit robbery to save the life of his wife. Moral dilemmas do not have a right answer, but present 2 conflicting paths. Both paths are desirable, but just one can be chosen. The reasoning leading to choosing a path at stage 5 involves empathy with the people helped and the people harmed by each path. So that is the underlying theory of moral development in a nutshell. How does it apply to leaders? Leaders continuously face moral dilemmas in real time. Sometimes it plays out publicly and sometimes behind securely closed doors. I would like to explore this through the examples of 3 presidents who each operated at the highest level of moral development and how history regards them. First, Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln recognized that the way the government interacted with Native Americans was marked by corruption of the Indian agents, and it needed a complete overhaul. But first, he had to get past the Civil War. The situation came to a head in Minnesota. I'm going to read from Scott Berg's book, 38 Nooses, Lincoln, Little Crow, and the Beginning of the Frontier's End. In August 1862, after decades of broken treaties, increasing hardship, and relentless encroachment on their lands, a group of Dakota warriors convened a council at the teepee of their leader, Little Crow. Knowing the strength and resilience of the young American nation, Little Crow counseled caution, but anger won the day. So began 6 weeks of intense conflict along the Minnesota frontier as the Dakotas clashed with settlers and federal troops. Once the uprising was smashed and the Dakotas captured, a military commission was convened, which quickly found more than 300 Indians guilty of murder. President Lincoln, embroiled in the most devastating period of the Civil War, personally intervened. Lincoln realized that these Indians had been terribly mistreated by government agents. They had engaged in war, and as such, the men captured should have been treated as prisoners of war. The military commission that convicted them included soldiers who had fought in the war, which not even speak English, which of course makes it unlikely that they could mount a defense before their commission. Knowing all of this, Lincoln reviewed each person's file and intervened to spare the lives of 265 of the 303 condemned men. But he needed to show support for the governor of Minnesota in order to keep the state aligned with the Union. And so he authorized the hanging of 38 Dakota men, the largest government-sanctioned execution in American history. From the start of the Dakota War to the mass hanging was a period of just 4 months. The moral dilemma Lincoln faced was reflected in the deep lines in his face. He had to choose between winning the war or saving 38 Dakota men. Mainstream history takes no notice of the mass hanging. Lincoln led the country to the conclusion of the war, but before he could take on the agencies that so mistreated the Native Americans, he was assassinated. And he is regarded as one of our greatest presidents, although not so much among Native Americans. Next, I want to talk about Lyndon Baines Johnson. LBJ had been a powerful senator from Texas. When he became president after John Kennedy's assassination, he wrestled the Civil Rights Act of 1964 through Congress, outlawing discrimination, segregation in employment, public schools, and public accommodations, and outlawing unequal application of voter registration requirements. When he was elected president in 1964, he won with 61% of the popular vote, more than any president since 1820. He then was able to push through Congress several significant bills known as the War on Poverty, including the amendments to Social Security that created Medicare and Medicaid. But with the Vietnam War hanging around his neck, he made the announcement that he would not seek a second term as president. Had he focused on this war instead of the poverty agenda, he very likely would have been reelected. The dilemma for him was the condition of life for African Americans, poor people, and the elderly versus the young men drafted to fight in Vietnam. He chose to tackle the needs of the former, and for a whole generation of us who lived in fear of that draft for a war we could not make sense of, he does not get credit for the choices he made in facing his biggest moral dilemma. History may give him his due, but it will take our generation fading away for him to get the recognition he truly deserves. And finally, Barack Obama. He came into the presidency with mountains of issues waiting for him. He chose to take on an issue that had been viewed as impossible: health care for all. The Affordable Care Act was an amazing benefit for tens of millions of Americans, but the cost was the loss of the majority in Congress and then the loss of many other legislative opportunities. The benefit and the cost of his choice were both enormous. We don't know how history will regard this president, but in the short term, he is highly regarded in this country and around the world. And if you haven't wept enough lately, take the time to Google Obama Amazing Grace and listen to him singing during his eulogy of Reverend Clementa Pinckney in Charleston. How much older these three presidents looked leaving office than when they began. This is the mark of the moral dilemmas they faced. There was no single clear right answer. Every decision came with their full understanding of the people harmed and the ability to see the forest as well as the trees on these issues, and empathy for the people impacted. Thank you. And now please join Bonnie in singing our closing hymn, and remember, no one else can hear you, so belt it out.
One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us, and everyone will take one more step. One more word, we will say one more word, till every word is heard by everyone. We'll say one more word. One more prayer, we will say one more prayer, till every prayer is shared by everyone. We'll say one more prayer. One more song, we will sing one more song, till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song. We will now have our chalice extinguished, followed by closing words.
Because of those who came before us, we are. In spite of their failings, we believe. Because of and in spite of their horizons, of their vision, we too dream. Let us go remembering to praise, to live in the moment, to love mightily, to bow to the mystery. And now our announcements. First, we'd like to thank everyone whose hard work has made this virtual service possible. Please join us for what we're calling our Coffee Hour Plus every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. This is an opportunity to catch up on the latest happenings, enjoy old friends, and make new friends. In addition to socializing, we also feature some sort of entertainment or brief program. On Father's Day, June 21st, we'll present a slideshow to honor fathers. Please email pictures to our church administrator, along with a caption you would like to share with others in Coffee Hour. Check the online e-news, the quill, and the church website for dates and times of all our virtual events. And may you enjoy your day.